All right, I'm gonna go ahead and kick us off today. First and foremost, thanks for everybody for stopping by and welcome to today's webinar, Dominate Listings in the Shifting Market with MAPS coaches, Alexis, Weigand, and Emily Baker. Before I kick it off, I have three quick announcements. One, please note that this meeting is being recorded. I will share the link in the chat momentarily to the MAPS YouTube channel where the recording will be available within 24 hours. Two, currently everybody is on mute. However, we do value group participation. So we ask that if you have any questions for your coach, please put them in the chat box. Lastly, following the meeting, if you have any questions about today's call or any other coaching programs questions, please let us know at fasttrack@kw.com. And that is fasttrack@kw.com. And that's all from me, guys. The floor is all yours.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin. Hey, everyone. Happy Wednesday. So my name is Emily Baker, and I am a MAPS Mastery Coach, and I also lead the Fast Track program, the Mega Listing Agent, with my business partner, Alexis Weigand, on here. And today we are going to go through dominating listings in a shifting market. So a little bit about me. I got into real estate about 10 years ago. It doesn't seem that long. Time flies. And I started off, and when I first got started, I thought, gosh, it's really scary to focus on sellers. Does anyone else felt like that starting with your seller business? And I grew a team to take well over 250 listings every single year. And we were in Gary's Top 100. And now I have the pleasure of coaching. So Alexis, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I have not been in real estate for 10 years. I've been in it for 17 years. I'm also a team lead of a mega agent team here in San Antonio. So I'm super excited also, like Emily, to be in a leading and coaching position. And we helped about 200 families last year for a total of 85 million. And we have all of the systems and people in place that now I get to train and coach on how to do it at an even higher level. So excited to be here with you guys today. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and kick this off. So there is a lot of seller uncertainty out there. Have you guys been hearing that? Put it in the chat box. If you have been, when you're prospecting or you're meeting with sellers, there's a lot of seller uncertainty. You may hear seller uncertainty in a way of, well, I'm not sure what's going to happen with the market, or I'm not sure what's going to happen with the economy, or I heard that the market has gone down. Have you guys been hearing that? This is for interactive. So go ahead and type in the chat if you've been hearing that. Yes. Okay. I've been hearing that with my coaching clients also across the board and specifically in my market too. Lots of hesitation. That's right, Sherry. Okay, so we know that facts trump feelings, right? And so to be the economist of choice, we first have to know what market we're in. So Gary tells us, we've got three markets. You have a seller's market, which is less than 5 months of active inventory, right? Your supply, if you will. Then a buyer's market is more than 7 months of supply. And then we have a balanced market, and a balanced market is 5 to 7 months supply. Some of you may be thinking, gosh, I already know these numbers, and that's great. And how are we using those in our consultations or in our conversations with sellers when there is hesitation there? So if you don't know how to find out what market you're in, or if you're curious how to find month supply, I put the formula up there for you. It's the total active listings. So whatever the market you service or your MLS, you can just click the total active listings, write that number down, divide it by the closed from the last 12 months. So just do a quick search or pull a stat of the last 12 months of total closed. And then you're going to take active listings divided by total closed. And it's probably going to give you a point something in a lot of your markets today, okay? And we're going to take that and times it by 12, and that will give you your month supply. Now you can use a point for accuracy, or you can round up. So as an example, as you'll see on the screen, we put, let's say your market has 2,612 active listings today on the market. And in the last 12 months in the market, we've closed 16,365 homes. we're going to times that by 12, and that's a 1.9 month supply, or you can round up to a 2-month supply, right, of inventory. And that would tell us that we're in a seller's market. Now, I've done this exercise with a lot of clients, and a lot of us are still in a really strong seller's market, and yet there's a lot of hesitation. So that conversation may sound like, hey, I know that there is a lot of noise in the market right now of what's going to happen and a lot of uncertainty. So I hear you there. And yet what we know, I'm a student of the market, and I pull numbers every single week. And what I found is that, there are 3 types of markets. Okay. We've got a seller's market, a buyer's market, and a balanced market. A seller's market is when we have less than 5 months of supply based on the demand. And right now, did you know that we're just under 2 months supply? No, I didn't know that. Yeah, we're still in a strong seller's market. 5 to 7 months supply is when we really get to a balanced market, which is still a great market for sellers. It's just the best of both worlds. So that's how you would have that conversation with a client to eliminate fear immediately and give them insight such that we're the economist of choice. The second thing is knowing your numbers. So Alexis, you do this at a really high level. Why don't you go through this?
Yeah, and I saw a lot of you say that you're from San Antonio on here. I wanted to give you guys our numbers real quick, just in case you don't track them. All right, so really quickly, guys, this is what it sounds like for San Antonio. It should sound similar for y'all's. Our total active listings are 9,500. I'm going to divide that by 39,000 because that's been the total closings, right? I get 0.24, I go times 12, and it's 2.9. We're at 2.9 months supply. So I just took Emily's formula, I applied it to my own market, and we're at almost 3 months of supply. So we use this in every single seller conversation. All right, let's go to the next slide for me. Hey, Pierre, can we go to the next slide? Awesome, thanks. Okay, so knowing your numbers, that's what today is all about. When we meet with sellers, we have it saved to our phones. You can print it out, but I'm going to encourage you guys to absolutely start tracking your numbers. That way there's the visual. Most of us are visual learners, so are your buyers and sellers. So when we meet and we have a conversation, number one, and this is after we've gone through motivation, their timeline, their goals, right? We're going to start educating them about the market such that they can give us the answer to the question, what's more important? Is it time and convenience, or is it money? After 17 years of going on listing appointments, I will tell you most of the time, their answer is going to be money. Or they'll say, oh, it's actually both. Both are equally important. I'll say, well, if you had to choose one. So then we can start having an educated conversation around, hey, here's where we have been, here's where we are, here's where we're going based on our local numbers. No one really wants to hear about national numbers. So the first thing you're going to start tracking, and I recommend you track this week over week, is your active listing inventory. So as you see here, the most recent, and this isn't just an example, but the most recent is at the bottom. So let's round that out. 1,900, the week before we were at 16, the week before we were at 15, the week before we were at 12. So if you have this in front of your seller, here's what it looks like. And we typically will put the most recent at the top. So all that you see is, hey, if we had this conversation, if you and I had had the ability to meet 3 months ago, 4 months ago, right? It would be a different market, but here's our active inventory. And it's very easy when you see, and we show all of our data always in terms of 3 months. It's enough perspective to understand the shift that's happening. Just a couple of weeks, in my opinion, isn't enough perspective. Again, this is just a snapshot. If you like what you're hearing, we're going to go through all of this. We give you the Google Sheets we've created. We give you all of this in our mega listing agent course that's about to launch. So we talk about active listings, new listings, number of pendings, number of solds. If you had only 3 things to track, I want you to write this down. The most important thing to me to keep it simple and stress-free and the conversation easy to understand is month supply. And I'm looking right now at our San Antonio numbers, and it is very similar to the national numbers. We're usually almost spot on with them. And if we had had a conversation in the beginning of April, we would have been at 1 month's supply of inventory. And every single week it's ticked up by a point. It's just the most simple pattern to visually see. So we can talk about, hey, in April, we were at 4,000 active inventory. And when I know some of you in the chat channel have asked this, we use our entire San Antonio MLS. We service the entire area. So I wouldn't, if you service a whole area, for us, we recommend the entire MLS. Emily, is that what you coach for your clients?
Yep, absolutely. If you service wherever you'll take a listing is where you're going to pull it.
There you go. Okay, the second most important thing is number of active homes on the market. And then I would say the third thing we focus on the most is how many new listings hit the market this last week. Right. And then from there, you can just have a conversation because it's really clear visually that if they say money's the most important thing, then we can say amazing. So our job in partnering with you to get your house sold for top dollar, part of that is to help you get your house on the market as soon as possible. Because as you can see in a shifting market, every single week that we wait, there is more competition and more active inventory in the market, which means we're going to have to be more aggressively priced in order to get into that small percentage that's actually going under contract. So when you start tracking these things, the patterns start to be really clear, and you can take the conversation in really whatever direction you want. I know if you were to look at this sheet with all its numbers, another thing that's really interesting is sales price. And every single week now for about the last, I think it's 6 weeks, our price has actually started going down. Anything else you'd like for me to highlight on here?
Brian had a great question. What day of the week do you pull this data?
We pull it on Monday just to stay consistent. So we do have a cyberbacker with Keller Williams. It's they're a virtual assistant for us. And that way it never gets dropped. It goes in and we're pulling from MLS. We also have showing time. And so we're also tracking the number of showings as well, week over week. So we can see, like in our market, our showings are down about 15% week over week. Again, if you want the whole sheet of this and then how to use it as a high level, go ahead and sign up at the end. We have a QR code, but you can sign up for our mega listing agent course where we give all of this to you so you don't have to recreate the wheel. All right, let's go to our next slide. Skills first, service second. So as Gary says, our number one job as listing agents is to earn the right to get the sign in the yard. Do whatever it takes to make sure your competitor sign is not in the yard. And so what I mean by this is really show up well prepared. Show up being the economist of choice. Show up knowing your value proposition. Show up knowing the message of the market, being able to articulate and show them not only here's where we were 3 months ago and here's where we are, but then also be able to show them over the last, like if you were at Mega Camp, Gary shared with us all of these slides, show them the 7 to 10 year cycles so that it's really clear where we're going based on the typical cycle of real estate. So the market doesn't determine your success, it determines your strategy. I think that this is such a blessing for all of us because as we shift our MOFers, right, make offer for immediate response, our message of the market, we get to always deliver something relevant and something new to our clientele.
I think the big thing too, as well in dominating listings in a shifting market with it being a skills first market is the level that you practice at is the level that you play at. So how many of you were at Mega Camp? Type in the chat if you were there or watched it digitally. Awesome. Okay, so a lot of you. So how many of you observed Jeff Glover and Sarah Reynolds on stage just dropping scripts like they were no one's business? Right? Okay. They said, even though they're running these mega teams, I mean, they have mega businesses, right? They're practicing every single day. They're practicing and role playing every single day. So a lot of us, you know, when we get into the business or we've been in the business for a while, we look at it and we're just going 90-0, right? We're doing whatever we need to do in order to not ride the commission roller coaster. And yet when we have the leads and we are able to create market share, or when you have the opportunity to meet with a seller, dominating listings is all about conversion too. So it's working smarter, not harder, right? I don't have to go on as many appointments to hit my listings taken goal. And we know when you hit your listings taken goal, you hit your year-end closing goal every single time. So you lead with listings through a shifting market, and we have to prioritize the practice. We have to prioritize scripting. So the next slide, identify your one thing. So what you focus on expands. So this is straight from the MREA. There are multiple ways to win. Some of the ones that I like to highlight in a shifting market is, what do we typically see more of? We see more FSBOs that aren't selling. We see more, you know, expireds that are coming up. Have you guys been seeing that in your markets? Yes, some of you. Okay. So we're seeing those opportunities, low-hanging fruit, right? The consistent theme, Gary always says, is find the motivated, right? If they have a sign in their yard for sale by owner, they're motivated. If they're, you know, just expired off the market, they're motivated. So those are some great ones. Open houses, using open houses to find additional sellers. Database. Call your database, right? That is the lowest hanging fruit for us, our MET database. So past clients, sphere of influence. Are you the economist of choice for them? Do you have those conversations? Do they know? A lot of times, you know, we hear what's happening with the economy, inflation, right? A lot of people, they're spending more on groceries, they're spending more on gas, right? And they're curious about the economy as a whole. You could be the economist of choice for what's happening in our real estate market. And just, hey, I don't know if you know this, but gosh, we're starting to see our market take a turn. Who do you know that's looking to, you know, that may be looking to sell right now, that maybe has been on the fence because they're unsure? It's just as simple as asking and being the economist of choice, and just being really consistent on practicing in that lane, such that when you call an expired, when you call a FSBO, when you call your, you know, your friends, family, your sphere of influence, when you do an open house, you know what to say in order for that to guide them to make the clearest decision. Because at the end of the day, it's their decision, right? You're never going to motivate someone to sell that doesn't want to sell. Can we all agree? We've all had those appointments. Awesome. Yeah. And Tamara set 3 FSBO listing appointments today. That's amazing. They are motivated. So the other thing that's really important is clear pricing expectations. We always say expectations eliminate objections, right, Alexis?
Yes, always. All right, are we going to the next slide?
Yep.
All right, so like she said, really great expectations eliminates objections. And how this relates to sellers is really simple. We go to the listing appointment, we set the 3 goals, right? And then we move into pricing. And this is where we really, what you see on the screen, authorship is ownership. We want them to be able to choose their price. What we don't want is for someone to say, well, I don't know, you're the expert. If this was your house, what would you price it at? I respectfully would say, okay, and my job is to educate and consult. Let's go back and revisit the data such that I know that I've done my job well, and you understand based on the data, not just how I feel or what my thoughts are, but you understand how you're pricing your house, because ultimately it is your choice. We want to give people options and we want to educate them. And so once they've chosen the price, right, some sellers can say, we don't care about looking at the comps. We just need to get X amount out of it. Like if you don't think you can sell our house for this, then we're not signing. Okay. So you may take the listing, and yet you want to be able to set really fair expectations that if the market does, let's call it $500,000. If the market does not support $500,000, then what? What is plan B, right? And so for us, you'll see on here, the first 7 days on the market are the absolute most important. So you can figure out your number by looking, signing up for our course. We'll walk you through exactly how to figure out this number. But in our market, it's 10 showings right now. In the first week, if a house is priced correctly, it should get no less than 10 showings. Okay, and for every 10 showings, we should be receiving at least one offer. So then I'll say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this is great. We've talked about our marketing plan. I'm really excited to get this house, on the market. And if by chance we're wrong, right, we launch all marketing, all activities, and we only get 2 showings, the only conversation we're having is around price. There's 4 reasons real estate sells, right? It's marketing, condition, location, and price. You're hiring us. We've got marketing covered. Condition, we've got it covered. We will have already talked about it. Location is what it is. The buyer's going to love it. So the only conversation we have is price. So if it's, let's say we get 2 or 3, showings, that means we are off by at least 8 to 12%. The lion's share of price reductions that we do are about 10%. Now, let's say we have a listing that goes to market and we're getting 20 showings within the first week and no offers. Something's off. Maybe it's the floor plan, something that once they're walking the house, they're not putting pen to paper. We're only 5 to 7% off on price. Okay, so these conversations, they're not happening 30 days after we have a listing. They're happening, okay, here's next steps. We signed a listing agreement. Here's what you can expect next. They're happening at the listing appointment such that they know that next call they have from us, it's either, hey, here's feedback, we're expecting offers, or we have an offer, or it's, hey, here's the feedback. We only had this many in-house showings. And then as we talked about, here's the price improvement that's going to get enough new people out to look at your house to facilitate an offer. Guys, we have this conversation on week 1. If a seller, and we always say too, guys, we're not pushy. We're here to meet you and help you have success. So if you don't want to make a change, because sometimes people see the data, it's clear as day, but like Emily said, like they're just maybe not quite as motivated. They're uncertain. Now that the market has proved it's not going to support $500,000, they need to get back to there and go, do we really want to make a move? You're not going to force them. So we say, listen, if you want to stay, stay at the same price, that's fine. We're still going to market your house. And yet, right, the majority of showings on a new listing, they happen within the first 3 days on the market. After that, it's like completely, it's the showings, at least in our market, have fallen off. That's what I really wanted you to take away from this slide, is setting really great expectations about how many showings they should be expecting in your market, and then what the price reduction or price improvement should look like if you're not getting offers and showings. And that should happen after the first or second week, not 30 days in. Would you add anything to that, or did I miss any questions?
No, I would just write down, you guys, right now, the top 3 things that I see sellers need the most clarity on right now is pricing, showing expectations, and your communication plan. So if you can communicate that on the first consultation, which we all can, it's if you have here's what to expect, here's what you're going to hear from me, here's what we're going to track. As long as they know that you have a plan, remember that plans solve problems. So as long as they're clear on what the plan is, there is no uncertainty. There is no seller anxiety, right? Some sellers are in a vulnerable spot. They're stubborn about what they want on their price. And we sometimes just have to say, hey, 3 things happen typically when we overprice a home or the market doesn't price the property. price that we're on. And that is, number one, we have high online views and we have no showings. If we're not having showings, we're not receiving offers. Can we agree? Number two, we have high volume of showings and we get no offers. If it takes a lot of work to have a house on the market. How many of you have had your home on the market at some point or have sold a home in the last 5 years, right? Yeah, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort, right? You're like yelling at the kids about making their beds every day, putting dishes away that you normally wouldn't do, right? It takes a lot of effort. And so when your hard work and effort doesn't equate to a financial result, which is what we're ultimately here to do, right? Such that you can blank insert their motivation. That's really frustrating. It's frustrating for me. It's frustrating for you. And the third thing is we occur days on market and then we get a lowball offer. And I see this happen a lot because people wonder, well, what's wrong with the house, right? And they offer under what you and I are talking about is top dollar in today's market. So I know that you really want to insert motivation. Let's make that happen and let's do the right thing and price at top of the market. It's still a strong market. And just to be clear, you're not willing to ride the market to the bottom, right? The market typically cycles every 7 to 10 years. You don't want to wait 10 years to sell your home. Here we are. So it's just being clear and clear. So guys, go ahead and type your ahas, what you took away, what's the one thing that you're going to implement from today's session. I'd love to see those in the chat.
And Pierre, let's go ahead and move to the next slide. All right, as you guys are typing your ahas or what you're going to implement into the chat channel, you can also get your phones out and open your camera up and get this QR code. When you look at the QR code, it's going to take you to the sign up for the Mega Listing Agent. Emily and I have spent a ton of time updating this. So if you've taken it, we have a handful, actually more of you, that have taken it every single time with us. So we're really excited for you guys to see the new updates this time. But go ahead and sign up. This is just 2 easy installments of $250. It's a 9-week course. You get Emily and I directly. We are going to give you our direct mail, who we use, what we do, our systems, our scripts, the tracking that we went over today. We actually give you a copy of it so you can just start inputting your own market numbers. This is not a class where you go, oh my gosh, I want to go do what they do. We actually give you everything that I've built on my team and everything that Emily built on her team for you guys to start using immediately. So Emily, what would you add about our upcoming course that you want them to know?
Yeah, so I would highly recommend those of you who have teams or an executive assistant to have your executive assistant or your teams join, because we also go through Mega Marketing Plan. We have a marketing checklist that we share with you, so you can go import that into Command as a task list or Brivity or Boomtown or whatever you're using as your CRM. We give you all of the email communication. So when I was saying, here's the communication plan, this is what you can expect. We give you all of those email templates and everything that your virtual assistants or listing managers or TCs can use. And we go deep into how to thrive in this market. What are the scripts that you need to know? And we go really targeted on data. So the path is in the math and what you measure moves. So if you're committed to hitting your listing take-in goal, which I'm sure everyone on this call is, then this is a no-brainer. And we're excited.
I would also let you guys know as well, we've had several inside sales agents, several director of sales. Yes. I'm just thinking director of operations, obviously several agents, but we've had a bunch of listing managers, kind of like Monica Reynolds' operations course, right? We really highly recommend, if you're the rainmaker and you have a team, put your teammates in this, because it all starts on the front line with our marketing, and then whoever's answering the phones with inside sales, obviously agents out there getting the agreement signed, all the way to our operations team. So we've had several teams on here that their entire teams are on, and we've gotten exciting feedback. We're excited for you guys to see what all we've implemented. So with that, thank you for investing this time in yourselves and with us. We greatly appreciate you being a part of the MAPS community, and we're grateful and excited to see you guys soon. Thanks for watching.
See you next week.